My mother was unfaithful to her first husband, who has the same name as me and whom we know nothing about. My father showed no mercy in their divorce, and I legally changed my name for obvious reasons. I'm 17 and suspect my mom might be cheating on my dad. I don't even know how to put this into words. Discovering something like this about a parent is one of the worst things a child can experience. First, I want to say that my mom and I don't have the closest relationship. She's always been a bit distant. Don't get me wrong, I care about her, and she's always been kind and good in a somewhat superficial way, which is fine. But she's never been the type of mom to get deeply involved in my life. She doesn't know much about what's happening at school, doesn't attend my games, and seems more focused on her hobbies and social life. My dad is the opposite of my mom, they have nothing in common. He's the one who drives me to practice, picks me up, helps with my homework, even though he's terrible at math, and is always there for me. He works a lot, sometimes too much, but still finds time to be with me no matter what. Even if meteors were falling, he'd sit with me to learn math. If what's happening with my mom is true, I'm terrified of what it could do to him. He doesn't deserve this. I didn't start suspecting anything until a couple of months ago. At first, it was small things I wouldn't have noticed if I hadn't been paying attention. My mom started spending much more time on her phone, not just checking it occasionally, but glued to it like a teenager. She used to leave her phone lying around, but now she takes it everywhere, even to the bathroom. She also smiles at her messages like someone with a crush. My dad hasn't noticed, or so I think, because he's busy working and being a great dad. I once casually asked her about the phone, and she just said it was a friend and quickly changed the subject. After noticing the phone, I paid more attention to her behavior. That's when I noticed her outings. She's been going out with friends much more frequently than usual, which is odd since she doesn't usually go out much at all. When I ask who she's meeting, she says something vague like, "Oh, just some friends you don't know." A couple of times, she came back wearing a perfume I didn't recognize. Once, I swear she smelled like cologne. I'm 17, not stupid. I know what that means. What really alarmed me was the money. We've always been financially stable because of my dad. My mom doesn't work but manages some expenses, and my dad trusts her with that. Recently, I overheard my dad questioning her about large withdrawals from their joint account. Like with me, she dismissed it, saying it was for a project. The problem is, there haven't been renovations or major changes at home, so I have no idea what project she's referring to. If this is a normal, women's thing, tell me, but I've researched what project could mean, and I'm pretty sure it's not something innocent. At first, I tried convincing myself I was overthinking. She's still my mom, even if we're not close. Maybe she's going through something she doesn't want to tell her 17-year-old son. Or maybe there's a perfectly innocent explanation. But the more I think about it, the less sense it makes. She's been acting distracted, like she's hiding something. For example, one night, I accidentally walked into her room while she was on her phone. I didn't know she was there, I just wanted to grab my dad's gloves. Her reaction was weird. She jumped like I caught her doing something wrong, instantly locked her phone, and threw it on the bed. I just said, "Sorry," and left, but her expression has stuck with me. I've been thinking about everything I've noticed lately. Part of me wants to confront her and ask directly if she's cheating, but I'm scared of what she'll say, or that she'll just lie. Then there's my dad. He has no idea, or at least, I don't think he does. He's been his usual self, supportive and relaxed. But now, I wonder if he's noticed and is just ignoring it. I feel guilty for thinking about this. What kind of son spies on his mom and assumes the worst? Worse, what kind of son suspects his dad is being cheated on and doesn't say anything? The problem is, I have no proof, just the things I've seen. Dropping a bomb like this, whether I'm right or wrong, will have consequences. I'm trapped in my head with this and have no idea what to do. At the same time, I know I have to do something. If my mom is cheating, my dad deserves to know. He's always been there for me, and I can't bear the idea of him being betrayed. There's also a mix of anger and sadness whenever I think about this. If my mom is cheating, she's not just betraying my dad, she's betraying our whole family. She's risking everything we have for what? A fling? A friend? I know I shouldn't jump to conclusions since I don't have much concrete evidence. But it's hard not to when everything I've seen points in one direction. What would you do? Should I confront her? Update 1. I decided to confront my mom, and it went as badly as I feared. I didn't want to sound accusatory, so I approached it as calmly and neutrally as possible. I just asked if everything was okay and mentioned she seemed a bit different lately. She got defensive immediately, then tried to turn the situation on me, acting like it was strange for me to be paying so much attention to her. It felt like I hit a nerve. I brought up the things I mentioned in my first post, how she was spending much more time on her phone, going out more often, and acting differently. I framed it like it was probably nothing, saying I was just worried something might be bothering her. I thought, and mostly hoped, she'd explain what was going on quickly and easily. But her reaction made me even more suspicious. She tried to make me think I was imagining things. She acted like none of it was happening, which was a massive red flag. Her whole attitude during the conversation was immature, rolling her eyes half the time, and then she told me I shouldn't worry about adult stuff because I was too young to understand. I tried to let it go in the moment because I didn't want things to escalate and become an even bigger issue. But her reaction kept bothering me. It wasn't just what she said, it was her entire attitude. She acted suspicious the whole time. Even when being defensive, she avoided eye contact, fidgeted with her hands, and honestly looked guilty. At one point, I even doubted myself because of how uncomfortable she seemed. But I couldn't shake the feeling that her reaction might be a sign of guilt. Was I wrong to bring it up, or was her defensiveness proof I was right? I barely slept that night, replaying the conversation in my head and questioning if I should have pushed harder or if I'd gone too far. The more I thought about it, the more I felt like I couldn't just let it go. So, I did what I always do when I'm stuck, I talked to my dad. I told him everything, the phone, the outings, her odd reactions, and how she tried to manipulate me. I could tell he was hurt. I don't know if he was hurt because I was accusing her or because he thought I might be right. But he stayed calm, let me finish, and then thanked me for coming to him. He said he'd take care of it. He didn't seem angry, just sad, and honestly, that's worse. It's exactly what I wanted to avoid by not making an accusation without proof, at least not yet. But I've hit a dead end and felt like I had no other choice. I hope I didn't make things even worse. Update 2 coming soon. Update 2. Long time no see. Hi, everyone, I hope you're doing well. In the comments of my last update, I mentioned that my dad took what I told him seriously and hired a private investigator to look into things. I wanted to mention it here in case anyone reading this didn't know. I told my dad I'd help in any way I could, but he spent about half an hour telling me it wasn't my job to fix this. He promised to keep me informed once he had more information. He also reassured me that I did the right thing by coming to him, something I really needed to hear again. The waiting was brutal, but it's been about 3 weeks since my dad hired the private investigator, and I don't even know where to start with everything he found. It turns out my mom has been having an affair, which is bad enough on its own. But it's not just with anyone, it's with a man she was married to before she met my dad. Yes, you read that right. My mom had an entire previous marriage that she never told anyone about, not even my dad. This guy, let's call him Jonathan, was her first husband. They were together when they were young, got married and everything, but she left him when he had financial problems or something like that. I guess she thought my dad was a better option because of his money, stability, and so on. The investigator also found financial records and other things about Jonathan. Apparently, my mom has been sending him money from my dad's accounts. That's what all those large withdrawals were for. She's been using my dad's money to support a man she hasn't been married to in decades. My dad is basically her human ATM. It honestly makes me sick to think about it. Well, it's not a coincidence. My dad told me my mom insisted I be given that name. My dad didn't know anything about this either. The investigator included it in the report, and when my dad told me, I think he was just as shocked as I was. I know this sounds harsh, but I can't believe my mom could be so awful as to do this to all of us. First, there's my dad, who's the most affected by the infidelity, the years of deception, and the stolen money. And then there's me, who's also caught in the middle of all this. I don't know, I have a hatred for her that I can't even put into words. Update 3 coming soon. Update 3. Things fell apart quickly after the private investigator's report came in. The investigator gave us a detailed breakdown, and my dad and I spent the whole night reviewing it. By the end of the night, my dad had had enough. He was still hurt and heartbroken, but he didn't waste time. The very next day, he filed for divorce. My mom didn't take it well, not at all. The moment she realized my dad was serious, she started playing the victim. She created this narrative that my dad was abandoning her out of nowhere and turning me against her. It's the same manipulative tactic she always uses, playing the martyr in every situation, no matter what she's done. She began bombarding me with messages, telling me she loved me and needed me to see the full picture. She tried to guilt-trip me into thinking I was the one hurting her by supporting my dad. She said she was lonely, claimed my dad had abandoned her emotionally years ago, and that he forced her to seek comfort elsewhere. She even said I'd regret siding with him once I understood the whole story, whatever lies she's planning to spin. Honestly, I'm sick of her lies. I can't take it anymore. The more she talks, the clearer it becomes how hard she's trying to manipulate me into seeing things from her perspective. I know she's upset about the divorce, but I can't ignore what she's done. She has no idea that my dad and I know everything about her affair, her secret first marriage, the money she's been sending to her ex-husband, and all the lies she's been telling. She thinks my dad only found out about the affair. She doesn't realize that we've been staying quiet, letting her dig herself deeper into her own mess. She's out there thinking she's playing some kind of game she can win if she just tries hard enough. But she's already lost, and she doesn't even know it. In public, she's putting on a show as the betrayed wife, telling family friends that my dad is cold and indifferent. She claims he abandoned her emotionally long ago and is now accusing her of infidelity to leave the marriage without giving her a cent. Some people actually believe her, which is ridiculous. They don't know about her affair or the fact that she's been lying to everyone for years. It's frustrating to see some people turn their backs on my dad because they are falling for her act. I could defend him, but my dad has asked me not to speak on his behalf, so I'll respect that for now. We're staying quiet, watching her dig her own grave. We've moved out of the house and are staying in a motel until things settle down and we find a new place. Right now, I've cut off all contact with her. I don't want to hear anything from her because everything she says is a lie or manipulation. I blocked her on my phone. I'd rather not say anything that could ruin my dad's chances in the divorce. I know things will get worse before they get better. The legal battles are coming, and there's a lot at stake. My mom is fighting hard for spousal support and trying to paint herself as a victim in every way possible. It's not in her favor for the divorce to be at fault since she could lose everything. But I know the truth, and so does my dad. That's all that matters, for now, at least. Eventually, the world will know, too. Once my dad is completely divorced from that woman, we'll finally be free of her. My dad and I are united in this, so I'm just hoping everything works out in the end. Update 4 coming soon. Update 4. Back with another update on what I guess is now a series about my parents' divorce. People usually name their posts. I've added numbers to the titles of my other posts to make them easier to find on my profile, but maybe I should give them proper names. Let me know if that's something I should do. Anyway, it's been a few weeks since the court hearings began, and saying things have been chaotic doesn't do it justice. I never thought I'd see my mom act the way she has throughout all this. She kept trying to paint herself as the victim in every possible way. At the first hearing, she came in with the full act of the heartbroken wife. She demanded a ridiculous amount of spousal support, claiming she'd sacrificed her entire life for the marriage and deserved compensation for her years of loyalty. Yes, she said that, without shame. She even cried in front of the judge, claiming my dad had been cruel and neglectful and begged for help to move on from an abusive marriage. Honestly, it was embarrassing to watch her try so hard. My dad's lawyers didn't interrupt her, they just let her talk. It's better to let someone dig their own grave. Then, boom, they dropped the bomb, her infidelity, complete with evidence. They revealed the money she'd been sending to her ex-husband, the fact that she'd hidden an entire previous marriage from my dad, and the final blow, how she'd named me after the man she was cheating with. That last part left her speechless. It was embarrassing to watch. She couldn't justify it without looking like a complete liar. Honestly, what could she even say to defend herself? The evidence was overwhelming. There was no way to explain it away. It's not like she could say, "Your Honor, it's all taken out of context." That's when she realized there was no way out for her. I think she genuinely believed she could keep playing the victim forever and get whatever she wanted. But there was no hiding the truth anymore. The court denied her spousal support, and my dad got almost everything in the settlement. She walked away with nothing. The funniest part? She tried to fight for custody of me. But since I'm 17, the judge let me decide which parent I wanted to live with. In front of my mom, I told the judge I wanted to live with the only parent I truly have, my dad. I don't think it hurt her, though, because she's never really cared about me as her son. She only wanted custody to hurt my dad, knowing he was leaving her with nothing. One thing that could have complicated the divorce was if I wasn't my dad's biological child. Even then, he'd still be my dad, and I'd still be his son. But one of the first things we did was a paternity test, which came back positive. My mom didn't know about this test and still tried to stoop so low as to claim I might not be my dad's child, ordering another test. It was all an attempt to hurt my dad, and me in the process. At least the divorce part is behind us now, along with the house we lived in. My dad put it up for sale, and we've moved out. My mom moved too, but not by choice. On a personal note, I've also started the process of legally changing my name. I've always gone by my middle name, which I hadn't mentioned before since this is a throwaway account. After everything, I've decided to make it official. I'm turning my middle name into my first name, and my new middle name will be my dad's name. He's the one who's always been there for me, and I want to honor him, especially after all my mom put us through. Update 5 coming soon. Update 5. It's been a few months since the divorce, custody issues, and everything else were finalized. That doesn't mean things have settled completely, especially regarding my mom. For starters, my dad has made a series of posts on social media, written by his lawyer, detailing what happened in his marriage. I think they've cleared up any doubts outsiders might have had about the situation. My mom has tried to get those posts removed but hasn't been successful so far. That's the benefit of having them written by a lawyer, they are hard to violate any community guidelines. Moving on to other matters, I met my mom's lover and the donor of my name. He came to meet me because he thought he was my father. I told him he wasn't, and that there were several DNA tests proving a strong match between my dad and me. He wanted to do a paternity test with me, but I said no. I'm not sure if my mom hasn't told him the whole truth or if this is just another one of her twisted plans. As for my mom, she's tried to reach out to me, saying she wants to repair our relationship. Yeah, right. Like that's going to happen after everything. Soon, I'll be 18 and free to do whatever I want, but I've already decided to keep my distance. It'll hurt to leave my dad when I go to college, but I think putting some space between me and everything that's happened will be good. Still, we've made plans to stay in touch. While I'm away, he'll visit whenever his work allows, and he's even joked about helping me with math. I'll visit him during holidays and whenever I have free days for a short trip back. That said, I don't plan to study anything math-heavy, so you won't catch me announcing I've decided to major in engineering, for example. And that's it, folks. Part of me thought everything might end like this when I made my first post months ago, but not even in my most optimistic thoughts could I have imagined this outcome. A lot could have gone wrong throughout this journey. Sure, an ideal scenario would have been my mom not being unfaithful. But given the circumstances, The fact that we're distanced from her and she didn't walk away with much after the divorce, partly because of the infidelity and partly because of the money she stole, is one of the best outcomes we could have hoped for. I wish all of you the best, especially those of you who have followed along with every single one of my posts.